ignited a huge conversation across South Africa amongst family members within church congregations. Those WhatsApp groups were just lit up with people discussing, firstly, whether it was the right decision by a government given the situation with COVID-19, and then secondly, whether churchgoers in South Africa would be taking up that call and taking the risk of actually physically going to church. What's the conversation been like over the last week or so amongst members of the South African Council of Churches?
Well, the church, the leaders of the South African Council of Churches, some of the member churches, meet every week, every Tuesday. It is kind of a COVID watch meeting. And it is the same group of heads of churches that called for a lockdown in the first instance, from their perspective. But they also then said, we now understand, having had a presentation by a virologist, but COVID-19 is not a temporal visitor. It's going to be with us for the next, definitely the next 18 months. And therefore, there has to be a new normal that we have to begin to look at. And so 3 weeks ago, they then started a process of thinking, what would be the conditions under which some kind of pastoral and spiritual administrations can begin, particularly for those people that are in need. If you think about it, if you are locked in your house and you are unemployed and you're a woman and you have got an abuser who doesn't have his liquor, who doesn't have his tobacco, you have got nowhere to go. There's no way to have ministrations. And that's really part of the pastoral concern. If you have lost a job and you are miserable during this time, you have no ministrations. And so the church leaders began to say, as part of the pastoral plan, there has to be a way in which some people can be brought to a place of worship in a COVID-compliant manner. And that's the way they looked at it. And that is why the guidelines that have been issued are saying this is not a call for every church to open. It is a call to say those churches that are able to meet the standards that the churches are setting for themselves. We think that it's going to take between 4 to 12 weeks for a church to be able to come to a point of saying, I think we've got enough facilitation to make this happen. But it also does mean that because now the pastors have been given the essential service status, those who cannot come to worship and who have these needs, the pastor can go and visit and make some kind of plan with them, again, under COVID-compliant conditions. So I think that we're quite happy that churches are now able to do their own assessment and they can look at it. Many churches will not even open at all, actually. The conditions will just not allow.
Now, I've got that document in front of me, a 9-page document from the South African Council of Churches with those regulations that you spoke of. And forgive the use of the phrase in my conversation with you, the devil really is in the detail, isn't it? Because when the announcement was made, one got the feeling, or many people thought, well, that's it. Churches are opening, and that's as far as it's going to go. But the details here are very succinct and very clear that there are many things that need to be in place before churches can even consider opening their doors. But that's according to the South African Council of Churches. But there are some churches who are saying, in fact, I quote from a piece in the Sunday Times where somebody from the director from the Ikamangu Institute said they had not made representations of their own, and I quote, various religious groups operate differently and do different things, therefore you cannot make decisions based on what the SACC has said because they do not represent all churches. And I believe the fear is that in as much as the SACC and those who are members have a plan in place to ensure that their congregants are safe, not all churches fall within or under the umbrella of the SACC and won't be as careful as this document asks them to be.
That is true, but I see it's not just the SACC that makes recommendations. There are a number of other bodies that made recommendations. In fact, all of them had different approaches. The SACC just went into greater detail about what it would propose, but a lot of other bodies made recommendations. In fact, at the interfaith meetings that we all had, everyone, including Ipamaku, by the way, all of them were calling for the same thing. But they all had different conditions for themselves. So what governs ultimately are the regulations of government. It's not what the SACC says or doesn't say. So all of us are bound by the regulations of government. What the SACC is doing is just going beyond the regulations of government, because our demands on ourselves are more than what the government is requiring. The government has the minimum of what everybody requires, including Ikamaku, because they were in the same meeting.
There's also been talk from certain sectors.
They were in the same meeting with the president. All of us, there isn't a single person that spoke differently.
Now, obviously, lockdown has affected the economy across the board. And, of course, the offertory, the plates, as it were, in churches have also been affected because of lockdown. But there has been some criticism of some churches that have demanded that they have some kind of compensation from government, because other industries are saying, look, we've also been locked down and we don't even have large numbers of people gathering like some churches would normally have. What makes you any different to say under lockdown level 3 we should be allowed to gather and therefore boost our coffers? What do you say to some of that kind of criticism?
I think there is a mistaken view to think that, if you have 50 people coming to worship, you're boosting coffers. In fact, I think we need to accept that those people who have money for churches, they would pay that money without having to come to church. It's not about money. It's the pastoral ministry. The bulk of these 50 people that will be coming are likely to be people that have no money at all, in fact. It's not about money, it's about pastoral administrations. Anybody that wants to give money to churches who has the capacity to do that will do that without coming to church. That is not the issue at all. I think it's a mistaken view to think that people come to church for money. It is not, in my view, the reason. The reason is that there is a need to create a pastoral space for people that are in need for that. And that's why we have suggested that people will have to sign up for this, and people will then indicate their readiness and willingness to come to church. It's a personal decision.
Just very quickly before I let you go, I must admit in my family we were very relieved to wake up to a message from my mother, as it were, the morning after the president made his announcement saying that my father and myself will continue to worship at home. The Lord will understand that we need to keep ourselves safe. What is your message specifically to the elderly, who are of our most committed churchgoers across the country during this time?
I have to laugh at that because I had the conversation with Ukozi radio in the Zulu language. There's an old man in his 80s who is an archbishop of his church somewhere in Shabialingana in Mangus in the northern Zululand. So he called, and I said there that, if you are old, I advise you to stay at home. That's my stay at home, not only because the government says everyone over 60, but really because, in all fairness, you need to protect yourself from all possible, you're either very vulnerable. So this old man calls me, because we know each other, and he says, I just want to warn you, Mpumlwana, that you too must stay at home. I heard you say you should stay home. I will stay home, but I want you to know that you're also old. Don't go to church. And indeed, and of course, the presenter in that program said, look, my mother is 81. She's just so happy she's going to go to church. I say, please tell your mother to stay at home. Tell your mother to stay at home. That's the way it ought to be. But I think that we also need to, I think that going back to the conversation with the old man from Zululand, one of the things that I mentioned in that conversation is that part of the preparation for churches has to take into account the different contexts of churches. Many churches in Zululand that I know don't use benches. They've got reed mats that they sit on the floor. And I then had to mention, because it is in our directives, that you can't use the old tattered mats for this, because they will not be able to be sanitized properly. You need to have new mats. So the old man says to me, I just want to point out that I like the idea that people must have fresh new mats. That will be another condition for coming to church. Because in my church is an archbishop, I'll make sure. But I want you to know that this is not the season for making mats, because the reeds are still very green at this time. And then I'll say, I didn't know about the seasons, but I think that it's a very important thing to make sure that you have people properly prepared. But those who shouldn't come with the age and the health conditions, stay at home. But then because we're now able to administer to them, we can visit them at home and do the right thing.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you for your time this morning. General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches, Bishop Malusi Mpumlwana. And of course, today is also a National Day of Prayer, as called for by the President just last week.